Well, good evening once again. I am Marvinetta Penn, founder and executive director of Global Girls. Now, Global Girls, for those of you who might not know, is a youth performing arts organization based on the south side of Chicago. And we work with young people, we work with girls, we work with boys, we work with women, we work with men, we work with just about anybody and everybody who wants to be worked with. And tonight, well, as you know, all of this season, my entire season, I have been focusing on love. I am so happy to focus on love. I didn't quite know when I started this season how it was going to turn out. Sometimes I didn't even know what the topics were going to be. But by and large, by the time Sunday rolled around, I knew exactly what I wanted to talk about for Monday because of the things that had happened to me during the week. So before I go on with my topic for tonight, I want to just tell all of you who may not know what Global Girls is, may not know what we've done or what our upcoming events are. Let me just fill you in on that a little bit. So Global Girls has been around for 22 years, and as I said, we work primarily with girls, but in our school-based program, we work with girls and boys. So this summer, we're going to have our awesome youth performance camp, and that's for girls between the ages of, I say, between 4 and 14. They come, they stay there all day, they learn singing, dancing, acting, put on a phenomenal show at the end of the summer, and it's just a wonderful experience. So if you have a daughter, a cousin, a friend, a niece, a granddaughter, and you'd really like to put her in a safe environment where she can make friends, she can also discover some of her talents, some of her gifts, some of her proclivities that are very, very positive, please enroll her in our summer youth performance camp. And you can find out more information by calling us at 773-902-2359 or going online to our website, www.globalgirlsinc.org, and our registration form is right there under programs. So that's one of the things that we have coming up that I'm so excited about. But the other thing that we have coming up is our Women and Girls Inspiring Change program. You know, there are lots of women and girls in the community who are making huge differences, who are making a huge impact on our community, on families, on schools, on just anybody that they're working with. And these people are really the unsung heroes. We've identified 6 of those unsung heroes, and we will be honoring them in May. So I'm going to tell you more about that in my last show, which is going to be next Monday. But you can find out more information about that. We are working in partnership with the African International House. So they're the people who put on the African Fest. So our event is going to take place at the Harris Park, which is the home, I should say, of the African International House. It's going to be on Saturday, May 21st from 1 until 3. It's going to be an outstanding event. For more information on that event, once again, please visit our website, www.globalgirlsinc.org. So, tonight's show, our next to the last in our series, this one is going to be awesome, because we're talking about love in the media. Yes, we're talking about depictions of love in the media. You know, I've been talking about love every week. I talked about the definition of love, the 4 basic types of love, which are love for community, love of family, love of just other people in general. And then we have those partner loves, those partnership love relationships. So I've been talking about all of that. I talk about how people learn about love. I talked about the confluence of love and romance, and how once romance came into the picture, money came into the picture. My guest last week talked about the cost of romance, which can be very prohibitive for a man, because we women think, oh, you gotta want me, you gotta deny me, no, you don't love me. But is that really love? Is that really love? So the media has us kind of confused about what love is. So to help me sort all that out, I've got a guest tonight. And his name is Floyd Webb. Now, I met Floyd years ago, before I even started Global Girls, so we've been friends for a very long time. Floyd is a filmmaker, a documentarian. He is a deal maker. He is the person who can connect other people to some people to other people. I mean, when we went to India, Floyd connected us so that we went to Goa, met some of Floyd's friends. They had us perform down there. I'm like, Floyd, you know everybody, everywhere. So this is definitely the man. So, Floyd, without any further ado, can you tell the people out there in TV land what I missed?
What you missed? Well, let's see. Like most people in Chicago, I was born in Mississippi.
Okay.
And we moved here during the quote-unquote Great Migration, and I lived in lived on the West Side. Started out on the West Side in various parts. Ended up in North Lawndale.
Oh.
And then then lived on the South Side on Garfield, and then moved into the Ickes Projects on 22nd Street in the late 50s, and went to Haynes School in Chinatown, and it's a real interesting area. I'm working on a project now about living in the Ickes and doing it in augmented reality to show people what it was like to live there because of what was around us. Because while we were bordered by Chinatown on the west side, there was McCormick Place on the other side. Plus there was Muhammad Speaks newspaper, Chicago Defender. There was Queen Chapel Church, which was an outpost of the Underground Railroad. Two blocks away, three more blocks away was Chess Records.
Yeah.
And there was VJ Records. This black woman from Gary who actually got the Beatles contract before they got famous.
Oh wow.
And
nice.
And so living in this neighborhood as a kid, these were my little haunts. These were, like I needed comic books. My mother was like, I'm buying you food. You ain't getting no comic books, right? So we would, so I was free to go out and work, so I would do little hustles like sweep out the press, go and help clean up the press after they ran the newspaper, Ad Muhammad Speaks, and I would deliver the Chicago Defender newspaper. We sold Jet magazine, dealing with Mr. Johnson himself, which is a trip.
But I want to know, fast forward, how did you get into movies?
Well, it all starts back there.
Okay.
I was living in a media center.
Okay.
The Ickes, newspaper. I had 2 newspapers and a magazine. I went to the Lewis Theater. We were, early television. All of this stuff made me, I decided I wanted to get into filmmaking, but I didn't know anybody who did filmmaking, right? But I had a teacher who was a photographer, Melvin Gaynor at Haynes School in Chinatown. And Melvin Gaynor would, and he would come to school sometimes, and he would shoot pictures of us and things. And,
interesting.
And actually, I got those pictures he shot of us in 1960 from his daughter after he died. She found a thing full of negatives that I found. And that's what this like augmented reality piece is. It comes from, because that's where everything started for me. I became interested in media because I was surrounded by media people. Like Leon Forrest, all of the great writers and all of the political heads at these newspapers. This is who we were able to hang around, And I got to know Mrs. Burroughs back then before she had the museum. When she had the museum in her house, and there's a set of connections that goes, because when people ask me where I came from, it's that period of growing up in the projects that started me on this path that I was on.
Okay.
And because Mr. Gaynor was a photographer, my dad was in Vietnam. I said, Dad, I want a camera. He sent me a little Brownie Starlight camera, right? And when I wanted a movie camera, he sent me a little movie camera, a little Super 8 movie camera too.
Yes.
Right. So I was able to get access to stuff, right? So I was able to start doing photography. So by the time I was 19, at 20, I was able to get into the American Society magazine photographers, and I became a photojournalist. And 1 year later, I left the country. But that was after being at the Southside Community Arts Center where Gordon Parks had set up the darkroom back in the 50s, right?
Yes,
So
wonderful.
people don't notice about the Southside Community Arts Center. The Southside Community Arts Center is iconic. You know, I mean, it is. You know, people talk about the Harlem Renaissance, right? The Southside Community Arts Center is the center of so many people, so many black people in the arts. You know,
and that's on 30...
That's on 39th. 38th and Michigan.
38th in Michigan.
38th in
and
Michigan.
It was recognized as a Chicago treasure.
It's a Chicago treasure. It's a landmark.
Yes, a landmark.
Yeah,
that is a fabulous art center.
It was opened by, the ribbon was cut by Eleanor Roosevelt.
During the WPA.
Right, and Margaret Burroughs was one of the people who founded it.
Awesome.
Before she founded the DuSable Museum.
Awesome. So let's talk about Black Harvest. How did you
You
get...
mean Blacklight.
Blacklight,
Okay.
Blacklight, excuse me, Blacklight.
Blacklight, you're right.
Yes.
Black Harvest was sort of a descendant. I stopped doing Blacklight because I ended up moving out of the country.
Okay.
And but no, after working as a photojournalist abroad, and I came back here. You know, I went to college for a couple of years, and I came back to Chicago. I got involved with Chicago filmmakers. I was still working as a photojournalist, right? And I ended up making a film while I was there, and we had had a black film festival at South Shore High School. I think in 1980? I think it was 1980. Yeah, 1980 or 1981. We had, but it wasn't going to happen. I had taken my film to a festival in London at Commonwealth Institute, and found out that a lot of my friends that I met in Africa, people that I knew that I met in England back in the late 70s, were all in filmmaking, and they were doing some really interesting, really important filmmaking. You know, they had a sus law, something called the sus law. You could be arrested for suspicion. It was like stop and frisk here, but it was a law that went back to the 1700s, and they were and young black men were being subjected to these sus laws, and they made this film, which changed the laws. You know what I mean?
Wonderful.
It was amazing, and that was my friend Menelik Shabazz. When I met him, he was at he was at a newspaper called Grassroots. Once again, I'm working around newspapers again, right? So I'm surrounded by media constantly. So the festival came out of me going to England, meeting all of these people that I knew, all these new people, and then finding out about these new filmmakers in L.A. at UCLA. The people like Julie Dash and Charles Burnett. You know, I met them through the Black Filmmakers Foundation at the first Black Filmmakers Conference in '79, and that's how the festival came about. I decided to create a showcase for all of these films that it was going to be hard for people to see. You know, the films weren't really going in the mainstream theaters until like maybe we started in '82. By '89. There was a new, there was a new surge of black films coming, and it was coming from the people that had come out of UCLA. It was coming, Spike was down at he was at Morehouse doing. So we were all together. It was sort of like a, this crucible. We were all in this crucible and working and making things happen. And so like. Spike came out in '86, I think it was, but Melvin Van Peebles had been here, and plus I found out about other things. Chicago was the center was like the birthplace of like commercial black cinema.
Oh, wonderful!
1910, 31st,
Yes. Let me ask you.
William Foster. Yeah.
Yes, awesome. I need my people out there in TV land. I need you to rewind that and go and look some of these people up. Go and look up some of these films. We only have 30 minutes in the show. But if you do Google it, I'm sure you're going to find a plethora of information about these filmmakers that Floyd was talking about. I want to ask you a few questions. Number one, what do you think about the depiction of love in modern media?
Well, the majority of love. Okay, the majority of films romantic films, right? You have your romantic comedies, and very seldom. I think we got more romantic comedies than anything. Or we have these romantic comedies usually center around some kind of betrayal. Some kind of I mean, there's trauma going on, right? And I really don't pay that much attention to those. I know me and my mom get into it about Tyler Perry all the time, right? Because and she loves Tyler Perry, and I'm like, it's okay for Tyler Perry to do. He does what he does, and that's okay. But I look at the subject matter, and my mother watches this long. I mean, she watches the whole series. I mean, she just binges the Tyler Perry series. And I'm sitting there going like, I can't do this, but it appeals to people, But it's like, if you want to talk about real love, or I look for the more serious films. Like I was telling you earlier, one of the films that really moved me when I was 11 years old was a film called with Ivan Dixon called Nothing But a Man.
Nothing But a Man.
Nothing But a Man.
That is something that I'm going to put on my list.
Yeah, I'm
going to put on my spring break list to go back and see this movie, see if I can Google it. Nothing But a Man.
Yeah, that was made in 1964.
Great.
It's on Criterion, I think.
Cool.
Criterion Channel, right?
Okay.
And that film, it's about a guy who meets a woman down south. He's from the north. He meets a woman down south and moves down there to be with her. He marries her, and he can't put up with the indignities that white people are trying to put him through. And he decides that he's going to leave, and he just becomes a little bit troubled. But as a result of going through those experiences and this problem with his wife, he ends up going looking for a son that he left behind. And the film is really about reconciling the situation he's in with the wife down south, the son he's left behind, and bringing that to sort of a head, to create this enduring kind of a love in spite of all of the issues, all of the problems, where, like we were saying, love's not a feeling, it's an action. It's like how, it isn't about how it makes you feel, it's how it makes you act. It's about the connections, those permanent connections that you're able to make. It's hard to talk about in a whole lot of ways because we see it so differently. And then like cinema creates a situation where we have this skewed outlook on love.
Oh boy! So you think that cinema in the nature of the business, because it is a business.
Yeah.
I mean, cinema is designed to put butts in the seats or eyes on the screen. If you're doing pay-per-view, they need viewers. If there are no viewers, if there are no advertisers on regular TV, then nothing is going to get put on TV. So you have to really appeal so that people will watch it. What do you think? Do you have any, besides the film that you just mentioned, do you have any modern day examples of some films, some music, anybody that might be getting it right?
Well, if Beale Street Could Talk, that was made in 2018.
Okay.
That's a film that I recommend for people to just get a taste of what that's like. Just to get a taste of it, because it's about family. It's about the love between family, the new addition to a family, the coming of a child, and then the trauma of the husband having to go to prison in the middle of all of this. It doesn't, he doesn't come walking out of the prison in the end of the movie. The family just endures. They find a way to get through it. They find a way to wait for him. And the film wasn't very popular, I think, probably because it didn't have that kind of a happy ending. And, a lot of people say, well, I don't need anything to make me feel traumatized. But it's like, it's a very real film. It's about real feelings, and it's about how we get through these things a lot of times. You know what I mean? It isn't like it. Happy endings are great, but that's, it's like, really, really horrible love will make you feel good too. And then when you wake up with that black eye, you're going like,
oh my God, how do we get to a black eye? Oh my God,
I'm just sorry. It's just like, there is this thing where we really have to distinguish, and we really have to, where we need things that tell us that we're worthy, but also to tell us that we first need to love ourselves.
And where do you see us doing that? I mean, let me ask this question. I work with a lot of young people, and a lot of things that were taught in the home at one time are not always taught in the home. I'm just going to be honest. Some things that we take for granted that should be happening in the kids' homes just aren't happening. I see too many kids young people who, because I work in a daycare program, I work in a kindergarten program, several kindergarten programs, and I see young people who cannot write their names in kindergarten. I see young people who don't know their addresses in kindergarten, or don't know their telephone numbers, and don't know their birthdays. So there's some basic information that we think young people should come to school with, and they don't. So we cannot assume that everybody is doing what we think they should be doing in their home, because we're not the parent police, we're not the home police. But most people have a phone. Most people have, if they don't have a television, they got a computer screen or they have a smartphone. How can the media do a better job if we know that love is important? If we know that, if we believe that love is more than a commodity, how can we do a better job? And not everybody wants that to be taught. Love to be taught. So what can we as media producers do?
Well, I just saw something by accident the other day. There's a Chicago filmmaker by the name of Mark Harris. And for the love of me, I cannot remember the title of the film because I just stumbled across it. And I started looking at it, and I was like, wow, this is really good. You know, I mean, it's a recent film, and it had about 1 million views, you know, and it was free, and it was on YouTube, you know. And I think, like, one of the things that I think we could do as producers is, one, we should do a survey of our audience to see what their favorite films were, to see what they want to see. You know what I mean? I know what I want to do, you know, and I know what I want to do for me, right? And but at the same time, I'm really interested because I'll like when I'm with young people, I don't ask them about what film they've seen. I ask them what book they've read. You know, because stories, I think.
Good luck with that.
You know, oh well.
Good.
Well, you know, I hang around with some people who do read. A lot of them don't. And then, you know, like, but see, you say good luck at that, but see, I've been on the number 20 Madison bus reading a book, and I had one of them little, you know, one of my brothers, you know, selling his wares. He'll see me reading something. He says, "What's that you reading? I always see you reading." And we'll get to talking about books. And I've actually ordered books for these kids because these kids are curious, right? Okay. They don't have anybody to talk to them about books, you know.
So think, but they're in school, so teachers aren't talking to them about books.
Well, these guys weren't in school.
Oh, they're no longer in school.
No, they weren't in school.
Okay.
You know, they were hardcore, right?
Okay.
And I was really impressed at their curiosity. And you know, and what I realized is that there was nobody to talk to them about their curiosity. You know what I mean? They would talk about other stuff, and they would see this book, and they would say, "What is that? What is that about?" You know, because I was reading a book about this black astronaut, Wings. I can't remember the title now. But this first black astronaut who was appointed by Kennedy, Edward Dwight.
Okay.
You know, and they saw that this man flying. How did he get to do it? I said, "Hey, man, black people have always been flying." You know, it's like they don't get this stuff in school, but that's the same place. Like, I didn't get a lot of my history. I didn't get it in school. I got it from people on the street, people like Hammurabi Ra.
So how can we get those people? I'm going to get back to my subject.
Well, we have to get. Well, yes. How do we get those people to? You know, it's like as filmmakers, we have to design those films. We have to begin to make those films. We have to be able to add those things in. You know, make stories that. Any story you do is going to have an aspect, right? An aspect of like some kind of relationship in it, in some way. You know, you're always going to have relationships between people. Love is always going to be an aspect, whether it's a love of flying or love of skiing or love of basketball. You know, there's always this. When you think about how do you love basketball? By practicing, practice, right? By going through the discipline. You know,
do you think people are able to extrapolate the love that they have for basketball and the dedication that they have for basketball to relationships with other people, because we've kind of convoluted.
Yeah.
We've kind of convoluted what that love is a feeling, that I'm
Yeah.
supposed to feel butterflies, I'm supposed to
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
all of this, when all of this could just be infatuation.
Yeah.
It could be a little lust thrown in there, And
Yeah.
but what about after that initial few months has gone by?
Right.
Do you just go out and get a shiny new basketball? No. Most people keep playing with that. And it's even better.
That's
Look,
right.
look, it's even better when you have played with that basketball.
ball
it
looks
gets
like it.
and
It
it gets a
looks like
little, a little worn.
Yeah.
That's when it's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
But we don't want to do that with relationships very
Yeah.
often. We say, oh, relationships are
Yeah.
dispensable. I can get a newer one, a better one.
Yeah, but it all starts with, but it does start with what we feel about ourselves.
Oh, come on now. What we feel about
What we
ourselves.
feel
Okay.
about ourselves.
Uh-huh.
Do we love ourselves?
Who teaches us to love ourselves?
Well, hopefully it starts in the home.
Ooh, we just talked about those homes.
Hopefully
Yeah.
it starts in the home. It's like you have to be given or taught to recognize
Yeah.
the goodness in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one, you have to want to be, to want to be, right? To want to be something. It's like I remember being with my friends and we wanted to be something. Even if we wanted a girlfriend, it's like, I'm gonna do this. We'll take her here. We'll take her to dinner here. All the stuff. We would have these dreams. We would visualize these things. When that TV show Julia came out, people were like, I want a wife just like Julia.
Yeah.
Because she was this example that you just didn't see. And we had these examples in our mothers and our aunts and things. Like I've had a lot of my aunts who weren't that much older than me. I didn't realize that when I was a kid, who had gotten married in their teens and things. And you could see it, you could see it, but you didn't really recognize it, because when we're in families, we overlook a lot of stuff until we're older, because we're in it. But once we learn to love ourselves, we're open. We become open. If we're looking for somebody to make us happy, that's a problem. I'm looking at trying to make somebody happy. I don't need nobody to make me happy.
All right. Because if you come into a relationship asking somebody to make you happy, that's too much of a burden.
Yeah.
You got to be happy before you get into that relationship. And I know I only have a few minutes left. I already got my 5-minute warning, so I think I'm down to about 2 minutes now. But there are several things that you said that I want to kind of wrap up. And one was that we have to learn to love ourselves. And I think that as children grow, their relationships with their parents, I'm speaking to all the parents out there, love is a verb. It's not just about clothing your child and feeding your child, but it's about sitting down, turning off the phone, putting the phone away, looking into your child's eyes, teaching your child values, teaching your child, because you want the best for your child. Remember, my definition of love is the willingness, that is an action to extend oneself for the growth of another. So if your child is just being cute because you bought some new clothes, you bought some pants, you bought some sneakers, please stop. Sit down. Love your child. Guide your child. Tell your child you love them. Look them in the eye and say, you're the most special thing to me in the whole world. There's nothing like that coming from a parent to a child. So don't even do it not just with your child. Do it with people who are important in your life. And I have one thought that I want to leave with you guys today. You are not what happened to you. You're not what happened to you in your past. You are what you choose to become every day. So with that, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I want to thank my guest, Floyd Webb. Just Google him, look at this again, Google him, Google all those things he talked about. And we will see you for our final show next week, where we will be talking about dating over 50. Yes, dating over 50 is still possible. Thank you and good night.